I never thought I could feel this kind of pain. Not physical pain, not the sleepless nights from exhaustion, but the kind of pain that comes from being completely crushed by the person who matters most in your life. My phone vibrated, a message from Jenna. My cousin. You need to see this, I'm sorry. I frowned and tapped the link she sent. It was a live stream on social media, showing a familiar scene. The dining room at my mother's house. Everyone was gathered around the table, the clinking of silverware against porcelain plates, the sound of glasses toasting under the warm golden lights. But I wasn't there. I was over 200 miles away, staying at a hotel for a real estate conference I had planned for months. In the center of the frame, my mother leaned back in her chair, swirling a glass of wine in her hand. Her face lit up with amusement, as if she were about to tell a particularly funny joke. Oh, please, does she really think selling houses makes her successful? What a desperate, pathetic failure. A chill ran down my spine. Her voice was casual, but every word cut deep. She thinks real estate is some big dream? Let's see. A girl who wasn't smart enough for med school, now selling homes to people who actually made it? Laughter rippled through the table. My aunt chuckled. My uncle nodded along as if my mother had just shared an exceptionally witty punchline. Remember when she cried her eyes out over failing that nursing exam? My mother turned to Aunt Carol, her eyes glimmering as if she were recalling a fond memory. She came home sobbing like a 5-year-old, saying she couldn't do it. So pathetic. Laughter erupted again. They were laughing at my struggles. Laughing at the years I had spent carrying this family on my back. The livestream continued, but I couldn't hear anything anymore. My ears rang, my fingers tightened around my phone until my fingertips went numb. They didn't know, they knew nothing. Not a single one of them knew that last year, I had drained my savings to pay for my mother's treatment when her insurance refused. None of them knew that I had worked over 60 hours a week, running across the city selling houses just to cover the never-ending medical bills. None of them knew that I had taken her to every doctor's appointment, fought with insurance companies to get her better medication. I had given up my future to save her. And this was my reward? The screen blurred as tears fell onto my phone. I never thought I would witness this. A woman I loved, a woman I had sacrificed everything for, sitting there, ridiculing me in front of the whole family. My phone vibrated again. Jenna, do you want me to delete the video? I wiped my tears, my heart pounding against my ribs. No. I wanted it to stay. I needed to see the truth. I needed to remember this moment. The moment I realized that no matter how much I sacrificed, she would never appreciate me. I took a deep breath. Tomorrow, I was going back. And this time, I was done helping her. 5 years ago, my life was completely different. I still remember the day I got my acceptance letter to NYU's nursing program. I cried with joy. Not the weak kind of crying my mother always mocked, but the kind that came from pure pride. I had done it. Ever since I was a child, I had dreamed of becoming a nurse. Not just for the stability or the salary, but because I wanted to help people who needed me. I loved taking care of others, watching them heal, knowing I could make a difference. I thought my mother would be proud. She didn't say much when I showed her the letter. She just nodded and kept watching her favorite TV show. But I didn't let it bother me. I knew she wasn't great at showing emotions. Then, on a chilly autumn night, during my second year of college, one phone call changed everything. I was studying in the library when my phone vibrated. Mom. I picked up, and immediately, I heard crying. Lily. I don't know what to do, I'm in so much pain. I shot up from my seat. Where are you? I'm at home, I can't lift my arm, my knee is swollen. It hurts so bad I can't stand. I hurriedly gathered my books and rushed out of the library like a gust of wind. I grabbed a taxi home, my hands trembling the entire ride. When I arrived, my mother was curled up on the couch, her face pale with pain. Mom, let me take you to the hospital. She weakly shook her head. I don't have money, Lily. My insurance doesn't cover enough, and I've been calling them all week. My chest tightened. How could she endure this without telling me? I helped her into the car and sped to the nearest hospital. The doctors ran tests and took x-rays before delivering the diagnosis. Rheumatoid arthritis. This is a lifelong condition, the doctor said in a low voice. She will need continuous treatment, pain management, physical therapy, and possibly surgery in the future. I looked at my mother. She covered her face, sobbing, her entire body trembling. "I can't afford this," she mumbled. I held her hand tightly. "I'll take care of it, you don't have to worry about anything." I made a promise. And I kept it. As her condition worsened, I started missing classes to take her to doctor's appointments. I worked part-time at a coffee shop to make extra money, but it was never enough. Medical bills piled up on the kitchen table, with debt notices arriving every day. "Can you take a break from school for a while?" she asked one evening as we ate in silence. I froze. "What?" "Just for a little while, Lily, until things stabilize. You could get a better job, make more money, and go back to school later." I looked into her eyes. I wanted to scream, "Being a nurse is my dream!" But then I saw her hands, trembling as she held her spoon. Heard her labored breathing from the pain. And I couldn't. I nodded. And just like that, I gave up my dream. I enrolled in a real estate course because it was the fastest way to make enough money to support her. I told myself, just for a short time. Once she gets better, I'll go back to nursing. But a short time turned into a year, then 2, then 5. She never got better, and I never got the chance to go back. I thought she would be grateful. But I was wrong. At first she would say thank you when I helped pay her bills. But that gratitude slowly faded. "Why are you always working?" she complained. "You're always busy, never home with me." "Lily, I need to see the doctor on Tuesday. You'll take me, right?" I told her I had an important client. She sighed. "It's always clients. Who is your real family, Lily?" I clenched my jaw. She never understood that I was doing all of this for her. Whenever she talked about me dropping out of nursing school, she never acknowledged my sacrifice. "It was just too hard for you, wasn't it?" she said once, as I handed her medicine. "Not everyone is cut out to be a nurse." I stood there, frozen. Not everyone is cut out for it? I had given up everything. I had abandoned my dream. I had let go of the life I once longed for. And she still thought I quit because I wasn't good enough? But I kept going. For her. Because I had made a promise. Until tonight. Until I saw her laughing at me in front of our whole family, calling me a desperate failure on a live stream. I stared at my phone screen, old wounds and fresh ones twisting together, suffocating me from the inside out. I had given up my entire life, for someone who never valued me. And now, I know one thing. I'm not doing this anymore. I sat in a cafe on Maple Street, my fingers tracing the edge of the thick folder in front of me. This was the proof of 5 years of my life being drained for someone who never appreciated me. Jenna walked in, her messy blue hair framing a face filled with concern. "Are you okay?" She pulled out a chair across from me, her voice softer than usual. I didn't answer right away. "Okay?" I had just watched my own mother mock me in front of the entire family. I had silently listened as they whispered, laughed along with her, ridiculed me. I had seen it all. And I still couldn't fully grasp the depth of this pain. But I knew one thing. I couldn't keep living like this. I slid the folder toward Jenna. "Look at this. This is everything I've done for her." Jenna raised an eyebrow and carefully opened it. I watched as her eyes scanned each page. Bank statements, medical bills, transaction receipts. $120,000. That money didn't come from an unlimited savings account. It came from grueling work hours, from sleepless nights negotiating with clients, from dreams I had put on hold. Jenna slowly looked up, her eyes burning with anger. "Oh my God! You paid for all of this? By yourself?" I nodded. And in return she called me a failure. Jenna's voice was sharp as a knife. I let out a small bitter laugh. "So I have no reason to keep doing this anymore." I unlocked my phone and logged into my bank account. With a single tap, every penny I had ever set aside for my mother was transferred into my tuition fund. "I'm going back to school," I said firmly. Jenna didn't say anything, but I saw the admiration in her eyes. And I wasn't stopping there. I opened my email and began typing. Subject: Financial responsibility. Dear family. After many years, I've decided that I will no longer be covering any of my mother's medical expenses. In the past 5 years, I have spent over $120,000 on her treatments, medications, and insurance. I have also taken her to every doctor's appointment, handled all her insurance paperwork, and fought with the insurance company to ensure she received the best possible care. In return, I was publicly called a failure. Attached is a detailed breakdown of the expenses I have covered throughout the years. If anyone truly cares about her, they are welcome to contribute instead of expecting me to carry this burden alone. As of today, I have no further obligations to her. Lily. I hit send. It's done. Jenna looked at me and smiled. Not a happy smile, but one of quiet understanding. You don't owe her anything anymore, she said softly. I nodded. Not anymore. My phone started vibrating non-stop. I didn't bother reading my mother's messages. I knew exactly what she would say. I knew she would play the perfect victim, claiming I had abandoned her in her time of need. Messages from other relatives weren't much different. Aunt Carol, your mother sacrificed her whole life for you. And this is how you repay her? Uncle Greg. Lily, what the hell are you doing? She's your mother. It's your responsibility to take care of her. Cousin Alex, all parents make mistakes, you can't just turn your back on her over a little hurt. I let out a bitter laugh. My responsibility? Funny how easy it is for them to say that. It's easy to judge, when they've never sacrificed a single cent. Never stayed up at night drowning in bills, never given up their dreams to be a lifeline for someone who never appreciated them. I opened my contact list. And then, one by one, I started blocking them. But not everyone was on my mother's side. A message popped up unexpectedly. Aunt Bridget. Lily, you did the right thing. Don't let anyone make you doubt that. If you need anything, call me. I blinked, a surprising sense of relief spreading through my chest. Then, another message from Jenna. I just left the family group chat. They're not worth my time, and neither are they worth yours. I had spent so much of my life trying to please someone who was never satisfied. But now I had let go. I didn't know how my mother would manage without me carrying the weight for her, but that wasn't my problem anymore. I had chosen my path, and I wasn't going to make the same mistake again. The doorbell rang, loud and persistent, as if the person outside wouldn't leave until I answered. I stood frozen in my living room, staring at the wooden door, my heart pounding against my ribs. I knew who it was. My mother. She had called me dozens of times over the past 2 days, leaving furious and resentful voicemails. I hadn't answered. Now, she was here, trying to force me to face her. Lily, I know you're in there. I closed my eyes, taking a deep breath. Open the door right now. Her voice was sharp, tinged with desperation, but I didn't let myself waver. I had spent a decade doing everything the way she wanted. Now, for the first time in my life, I was choosing what was right for me. I didn't open the door. I stood still, waiting. After a while, the pounding grew weaker, then faded into the sound of unsteady footsteps, retreating. I thought that would be the end of it, but I had underestimated her persistence. 2 days later, I received a text from Aunt Morin. Aunt Morin, Lily, your mother is at my house. She says you abandoned her. What is going on? I sighed. Of course. She had found someone else to lean on. No one in my family knew my mother the way I did. She had a way of making herself the victim, making others feel responsible for helping her. She would talk about her illness, about being left behind by her daughter, about all the hardships she had to endure. I texted back. Aunt Morin, do you really think I would cut her off without a good reason? Minutes later my phone rang. Aunt Morin was calling. I answered. Lily, I don't know what happened between you and your mother, but she's devastated. Who do you think paid every single one of her medical bills for the past 5 years? I said slowly, keeping my voice calm. Silence. Your mother said you're having some kind of mental breakdown, that you're overwhelmed by work and life and you just snapped and cut her off. I laughed, a cold, bitter laugh. Do you want me to resend the email I sent to the entire family? It has all the proof of how I took care of her. If I have mental issues, it's because she drained me dry for all those years. Aunt Maureen was silent for a few seconds. I knew she was thinking. I don't know who to believe, Lily, she said, her voice quieter now. Then don't believe anyone, just look at the facts. I ended the call. I wasn't surprised when, a few days later, rumors about me started spreading through the family. Aunt Carol, Lily is under extreme stress, maybe she needs help. Cousin Alex. It's sad to see someone as kind as Lily turned so cold. Uncle Greg, does anyone know if Lily is on some kind of medication? She's not acting normal. My mother had turned me into the crazy one in their eyes. But this time, I didn't care. I turned off my notifications and focused on work, preparing for my upcoming nursing courses. In the mornings, I woke up early, exercised, and read nursing textbooks. I restructured my workload, prioritizing high-value clients instead of taking on every contract. I hired an assistant, something I never thought I could afford when I was funneling all my earnings into my mother's expenses. For the first time in years, I felt free. No more worrying about my mother's medical bills. No more answering calls demanding that I drop everything for her. No more guilt for choosing to live my own life. Jenna stopped by one afternoon, carrying 2 cups of coffee. Is she still at Aunt Maureen's? I asked. Jenna shrugged. Still there, but I heard Aunt Maureen is starting to realize she's not as devastated as she pretends to be. I smiled. No one could hide their true nature forever. Jenna looked at me, curiosity in her eyes. Do you regret it? I thought for a moment, then shook my head. No, I lost 5 years of my life because of her. If I hadn't stopped, I might have lost my entire life. Jenna let out a relieved smile. Good, because for the first time in forever I see you actually living. I looked out the window, watching the sun set behind the buildings. A new day would come, and I would never let myself return to that darkness again. For the first time in my life, I was living for myself. I stepped out of the classroom, my backpack heavy on my shoulders but my heart light. I was back in nursing school. After 5 years of putting my dreams on hold, I had finally returned. Not for anyone else. Not for some meaningless promise. But for me. The first few days weren't easy. I had to relearn medical concepts, adapt to changes in the curriculum, and still maintain my real estate work to stay financially stable. But this time, I wasn't running myself into the ground for someone else. I chose my clients carefully, focusing on high-value deals instead of taking every offer. I hired an assistant to handle administrative tasks, giving myself time to study. And then, something unexpected happened. Lily, you've been nominated for the Resilience in Real Estate Award. I looked up from my laptop, staring at Jeffrey, my longtime colleague in the industry. What? I frowned, unsure if I had heard him correctly. It's an award for people who have overcome adversity but remained strong in their careers. You're one of the top nominees. I froze. I had never expected recognition. I had worked tirelessly. No one had seen my sleepless nights, my silent struggles, the tears I shed under pressure. I hadn't done any of it for praise. I had done it because I needed to survive. And yet, now, what I had done was finally being recognized. A few weeks later, I walked into the hall where the award ceremony was being held. I wore a navy blue dress, simple yet elegant, the first thing I had bought for myself in years. And the winner of this year's Resilience in Real Estate Award is Lily Carter. Applause erupted throughout the room, but I felt frozen in my seat. Jeffrey nudged me gently. Go accept your award, Lily, you deserve it. Slowly, I stepped onto the stage. As my fingers wrapped around the crystal trophy, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Pride in myself. I was no longer the woman who lived for others' expectations. I was no longer trapped in the role of the daughter who had to sacrifice everything. I had stood up and taken control of my own life. But at that moment, my phone vibrated. I glanced at the screen. Jenna. Stepping off the stage, I moved to a quiet hallway and answered. Jenna? What's going on? Her voice was tense. Lily, your mother is in the hospital. I didn't feel shock. I didn't feel panic. I only felt a familiar exhaustion, as if the universe was testing my resolve. What happened? My voice was calmer than I expected. A reaction to her medication. She fell and was taken to the ER. Jenna hesitated for a second before adding. Aunt Maureen called me. She said, your mom wants to see you. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. I owed her nothing. I had cut her off financially, set my boundaries. But I was the only one who could provide her medical history. I exhaled slowly. All right, send me the hospital address. When I entered the hospital room, my mother was sitting upright in bed. Her face was gaunt, but her eyes still held that familiar glint of control. Aunt Maureen stood beside her, looking uncomfortable. Lily, your mother. I held up my hand, signaling that I would handle this myself. My mother stared at me. So, you finally decided to come. No thank you, no appreciation. Just the same familiar entitlement. I pulled up a chair and sat down, keeping my voice steady. I'm here to provide your medical information to the doctors, nothing more. She smirked. Are you trying to hurt me, Lily? I let out a quiet, bitter laugh. No, Mom, you already did that yourself. Her eyes flickered, as if she hadn't expected me to say it so directly. Aunt Maureen cleared her throat, clearly uneasy with the conversation. I turned to her. Do you know what she said about me behind my back? Aunt Maureen blinked, glancing at my mother. Lily, what are you talking about? Jenna recorded it, the whole family heard it. For the first time, I saw real hesitation on my mother's face. Aunt Maureen stared at her. Patricia, is there something I don't know? I stood up. I did everything for you, and you repaid me by calling me a failure. But as you can see, I didn't fail. I went back to school, I won an award, I rebuilt my life without you. She had no words. Aunt Maureen looked at her, doubt filling her eyes. I reached down for my bag. I've fulfilled my responsibility, now it's time for you to take care of yourself. Without giving her a chance to argue, I turned and walked out of the room. This time, I wasn't running away. I walked out stronger than ever. I stepped out of the hospital after my night shift, the crisp autumn breeze brushing against my face, bringing a sense of peace I had never felt before. 3 months ago, I had officially re-enrolled in nursing school, continuing the path I had once abandoned. This time, not for anyone else, but for myself. I was still working in real estate, but only taking on a select few clients to maintain financial stability. No more sleepless nights worrying about my mother's bills. No more invisible weight of obligation pressing down on me every single day. Now, every decision I made was for myself. One late afternoon, I received an email from the Boston Medical Journal, a well-known regional medical publication. We would love to write about your journey, from real estate agent to pursuing your dream of becoming a nurse. Would you be open to sharing your story? I stared at the screen, a strange feeling swelling in my chest. I had never thought my story was worth telling. I had spent years trapped in a cycle of serving others, sacrificing everything without being appreciated. But now I understood. Reclaiming my life was a journey worth sharing. I agreed to the interview. A week later, I sat in a small cafe with a journalist from the magazine, recounting everything I had been through. Why did you decide to leave real estate and return to nursing? She asked, curiosity in her voice. I smiled slightly and took a sip of coffee. Because I realized I had been living someone else's life for too long. She tilted her head, waiting for me to continue. I used to believe that if I did enough, sacrificed enough, my mother would appreciate me. But that never happened. What made you change? I glanced out the window, watching people hurry through their own lives. One day I realized I didn't need her approval to be happy. And that was the moment I decided to take my life back. The journalist nodded, jotting down notes quickly. The interview ended, but I knew my story wasn't over. The article was published a week later. I didn't think too much about it. I was busy with school, work, and all the new possibilities unfolding before me. But one evening, my phone rang. An unknown number. I hesitated for a few seconds, then picked up. "Lily, it's Uncle Patrick." I blinked in surprise. Uncle Patrick rarely called me. "Hi, Uncle, what's going on?" He cleared his throat, sounding uncomfortable. "Your mother read the article about you." I fell silent, my heartbeat slowing. I didn't know what I was expecting. An apology? Acknowledgement? "What did she say?" I asked, my voice calmer than I had expected. "She didn't say much, just that I think she finally realizes that you actually made it." I let out a small, bitter laugh. "Do you think she's proud of me?" Uncle Patrick sighed. "She'll never admit it, you know that. But when I saw her eyes while she was reading the article, I think that, for the first time in her life, she knew you were no longer the little girl she could control." I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. I had once craved my mother's recognition. I had waited for a thank you, for her to say she understood what I had done. But now, I didn't need it anymore. "Thank you for calling, Uncle. Are you okay?" I opened my eyes, looking around my small apartment, the place I had built for myself, free from anyone's control. I was no longer the girl who lived for someone else's approval. I was okay. I've never felt better. I hung up and set my phone down on the table. That night, I sat on my couch, a medical textbook open on my lap, but I didn't rush to read. I looked around the room, the warm glow of the lamp casting soft light, everything neat and peaceful. No more pressure. No more guilt. No one controlling my life anymore. I knew my mother wouldn't change. I knew she would continue playing the victim, never admitting she was wrong. But that wasn't my problem anymore. I didn't need her recognition to know my worth. I didn't need an apology to validate that I had done the right thing. I had found my own life, and I would never lose it again. Flipping to the next page, I smiled. I was truly living for myself. Lily's story is not just about breaking free from a toxic relationship, but also a profound lesson on self-worth and the right to live for oneself. In life, many people sacrifice everything for their family, but that sacrifice is not always appreciated. Lily realized that no one is obligated to give up their future for someone who does not cherish them. She bravely cut ties, reclaimed her life, and found true happiness. This is a powerful reminder that setting boundaries is not selfish, it is self-respect. What do you think about Lily's journey? Have you ever found yourself sacrificing for family without appreciation? Share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to follow the channel for more real-life stories about family and life.